everyone, Doug Kenny here. Here we are again on Tales from the Rails, and today our guest is Trevor, a retired engineman on the Australian Railway. And we also have my longtime coach and mentor, actor Andy McPhee, who was also a locomotive engineman. Hey guys, how you doing?
Good, thanks, Doug.
Awesome. And thanks, Doug. And just so everybody knows, Doug's in Arizona, I'm in Los Angeles, and Trevor's in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. And
Adelaide.
Trevor and me go back, in lockdown. We go back a long time. Like we were both, I don't know if we both joined the job at the same time, but I think I was in 1971, I joined. When did you join, Trev?
I'm in Adelaide, by the way.
Sorry,
second to the second.
Yes, you are. Yeah, sorry. I'm looking at the locos behind me because that's where I started in
Yes.
Victoria, Dynam. But yeah, you are in Adelaide. My apologies.
Yeah, no, I started on the 2nd of the 2nd, 73.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I started in Melbourne at South Dynam in 1970 after being forcibly asked to leave Myers department store for letting stink bombs off in the cafeteria. Nothing much changed for the rest of my life.
That would do it.
Yeah, and I went straight to the railways, and I actually had to tell them where my last job was, and I told them, and they went, "Yeah, it's okay. You'd never get away with that nowadays." So it was a great career. I loved it. I actually was in love with trains for a long time as a young kid. I mentioned on our last interview, we got to go up on the Southern Aurora when one of our friends was travelling, and I was only, I can't even remember how old I was, probably 11 or 12. And the driver let us up in the cab, and that was it. Like when I got up in that cab on that S-Class, I'm like, something, I even got a bit of a chill through me then. I can remember that moment. I loved it. It was so intriguing. But I forgot about the railways for many years. And then when that happened at Myers, I said, oh, I'm going to join the railways. And look, I love my career now of acting, and I've had many jobs in between, but I will admit my favorite career was driving trains. I was just a bit of a restless soul, so I kept moving from job to job, but I loved the railways. And I know, Trev, you'll share with us, but I think you're 100 more times passionate about the job than I was, because you're so involved in historical societies, and I know you still keep all that up. So can you just share with us why did you join the railways?
Well, according to my family, I was interested in trains probably from the minute I was born, by the sound of it. In fact, my mother did say that the first word I spoke was train, I think. So that probably had a lot to do with it.
That's funny.
And I remember as a kid, we used to go to Victor Harbour every year for Christmas holidays. And where we stayed was right behind the station. So, of course, when the trains came in, we're up on the back fence watching them. And occasionally we'd get over there and actually have a ride in the loco while they were shunting around in the station yard there. So that was quite exciting.
Yeah, I bet.
And then my brother, who sadly is no longer with us, but he was 4 years older than me. He joined the railways as a carpenter at Islington Works 4 years before I did. So we had a sort of a railway connection. And then I joined at Mile End in 1973 as a trainee engineman. And it went on from there.
And it was just to share there, like Victor Harbour, when we used to go down on that nighttime freight, my dad's brother, my uncle, Uncle Ron, he was the parts manager at Freeman Motors there. So every time I went down there, and that was very close to the station, I'd go and see him, and then we'd have the little barracks there by the railway line and the station. I mean, things have changed a lot now. A lot of those lines are only used for historical runs and steam train runs. But as long ago as that was, I can still remember that the barracks and stabling the 830s there outside the barracks there. And I'm afraid I was one that needed my sleep. I'd just eat and go straight to bed, and I never could work out how some of these drivers would stay up for a few hours and then have a sleep and all that. That wasn't me.
Not sleep at all in some cases.
Yes, yeah. I know, right?
Actually, the thing you would probably remember back in those days, as opposed to now, is the number of takeouts we used to do at the stations on the way.
Yes.
Like you get to Mount Barker, and you'd be there for an hour taking out takeouts out of the van into the station.
Yeah.
And we used to take. Speaking of you being an actor, we used to do the films for Victor Harbour Cinema on the passenger.
And
wow. You'd be carrying these, I guess, 35mm films out of the break. They were heavy, very heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was interesting.
Yeah, it was. And they still run that steam train down to Victor Harbour, don't they?
That does, yes. Actually, we're booked to go on it end of September. I think we're going on a night train down to Victor Harbour from Mount Barker.
Oh, okay. And the now things changed a lot from when I left the job. Mile End is no longer, obviously.
No, gone.
And privatisation came in. How did that affect you and other guys in the job with the privatisation?
I think it was probably in working in South Australia with Australia National at the time that National Rail started. That even though that was a government-run railway, federal government, it was always designed to be privatised. And I think most of us knew that nearly all the jobs that Australia National were running at the time were going to go over to National Rail. So it was really a matter of you had to. I mean, I know it didn't work out that way in the end, that Genesee and Wyoming came in and took over the grain lines in particular, but all the interstate freight was definitely going to be going to National Rail. So it was really a case of you had to get, well, most of us thought you had to get in there to get a job, otherwise you wouldn't have one. Yeah. So I guess it was a little bit tense at the time, but it sort of worked out reasonably well in the end, I guess.
Yeah. How many rail systems are in Adelaide at the moment?
Well, you've got Genesee and Wyoming now have changed hands. They're called One Rail, I believe, now. So you've got them. You've got Pacific National, SCT, and Bowman's Rail up at Bowman's. I think that's about all that are running in Adelaide at the moment.
Oh, okay. I didn't know about that one. What's Bowman's Rail? What's all that about?
Well, they do what would you call overseas grain contracts? So export grain or export, I guess it's grain or hay, something like that anyway, out of Bowman's. They do the lead contract to Port Pirie, and I believe they do the mineral sands out of Broken Hill to Adelaide.
Oh, okay. So is there a depot up there somewhere, or it runs from
There
Adelaide?
is. They've actually got a depot at Bowman's, and part of it's on the old broad gauge railway line, funnily enough, where it used to swing out and go into the station at Bowman's. Part of that is, I believe, is there right away where they've got their siding.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. So when I come back, I've definitely got to go up and have a look at that. And is the rail system pretty healthy around Australia, you think, at the moment? Yeah.
I guess it becomes a little bit political at some time, but they are getting a lot of competition at the moment from, I believe, from coastal shipping, like to Perth and these places. And of course, that's all overseas companies, so they're sort of competing with our Australian rail system. So it's not the best thing. I know there's a lot of lobbying going on to try and get that stopped. But other than that, from what I hear from the guys that are still there, there's still plenty of freight being carted around. So it doesn't sound too bad. Yeah, yeah.
Doug, dive in, mate. I know you're a bit of a rail fan, but sorry, when you get two guys from the railways together, they're just going to keep going. So I better stop myself.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, Trevor, just curious, have you ever driven a train through the outback of Australia?
We used to, when I was working in National Rail and Pacific National, we used to work the Alice Springs train to Tarcoola. And then later on, we used to work the Ghan to Tarcoola. I did actually work the Ghan once to Alice Springs on a relay job when they were talking about doing that. So that's probably the closest to the outback I've come.